Grab a drink. This is the Man Room.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me in the Man Room. My name is Marcus Bridges. Welcome in from wherever you are listening from. We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're even on damn TikTok now. So find the Man Room where you are and consume it in the way you would like to consume it. Very excited for my guest today, and I'm not going to do any more homework before I bring him on because we've got beer to drink, and we've also got snacks in the Man Room tonight, which is a first. So you know him from the wake-up call on 1120 KPNW AM here in Eugene. I know him as a former colleague of mine. Please welcome Bill Lundun to the program.
Oh, yay me.
Hey, thanks for joining me, Bill.
Thanks. Thanks, I appreciate that.
Hey,
I am disappointed about one thing.
What's that?
You're on TikTok.
Yeah, I know. I knew people were going to... I knew people were going to get on me for it.
I had respect for you.
Yep, it was this week too. It's only been 2 videos, but I had I don't know if you ever met him, but Craig Gass. We had him on the Donk Show a few times. Master impressionist, really funny dude.
He's good.
And I was talking to Kirk. Actually, had Kirk on the show last week. You remember Kirk as well from the same building that we worked in. Yep. Kirk is kind of the younger, cutting edge of everything, and he told me, "Hey, man, there's a lot of organic viewership on TikTok." I'll be honest with you. I posted 2 1-minute clips of Craig Gass on the Man Room podcast, and they both garnered more views in one day than everything else combined for the most part. So I
was wondering if you were just going to get into K-pop or something.
Well, that's coming. I'm sure.
Okay.
If I waste more time on it, then it probably will show up that way.
Marcus in K-pop.
I don't have the hair for it anymore, Bill, as much as I wish I did.
Too bad. Too bad.
So we always start out the show by talking about, if applicable, of course, what we're drinking. And tonight, I gave Bill kind of what do you like, what do you dislike? And I went to the store, and you know what? I really got a European feel in that cooler, Bill. You didn't want any IPAs. You didn't want any pale ales. So what I picked up was a couple of Hefeweiss beers, German. Nice. I picked up a German Pilsner, which is that bottle in there. That's the Grolsch. Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic beer to have with a steak. And then the other one in there is an extra pale from Block 15, which is easily competes for my favorite brewery of all time.
You like Block 15?
I love Block 15. I mean, the thing is, I'm an IPA fan, so I can go down there and have 8 different beers in one night and not get bored.
Yeah. Yeah, they're totally into the IPAs.
They really are. It looks like you picked out the Grolsch there. Yeah. I like it. German Pilsner. You can use that Yeti right there to keep it cold if you want to.
All right. He's going to show me how to use a glass. I like that. Thank you. Thank you for showing me that.
Isn't this nice, though? Have it to be just a little bit looser feel. I mean, I love the radio studio. I love the way that things are, really high and tight in there. But I kind of like this whole just like it doesn't matter if there's a couple seconds of dead air, even though it makes me cringe when I walk off the mic to get a beer.
Oh, I like that.
Isn't that good?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a. Oh yeah, I'm going to have just a couple of these, and then you wake up tomorrow morning in a pool of your own vomit.
It's true, man. I first had that beer. Once again, that's Grolsch in the green bottle. I had that at a small restaurant up in Joseph, Oregon. Actually, it's at Wallowa Lake, where I grew up. Is a German lady named Valley that opened a little restaurant up there. It's seasonal. You can barely get into it. And that was always what my dad ordered up there. Finally got to try one when I was of age, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you, man, it's a really good, underappreciated German beer. We here in the Pacific Northwest are a little bit spoiled when it comes to microbrews, and I think sometimes the European specialties kind of get lost on us, which they really shouldn't,
That's really good. I mean, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good.
Like I said, I could harm myself.
Well, I only brought one, so you'll be okay. There's a couple other things in there, though. I'm doing this Weinstefaner Hefeweiss beer. This comes from the world's oldest brewery since 1040.
Where's it at?
Belgium. Bavaria. Brewed in Bavaria since 1040. That's what it says on the can. I don't know. I'll show the people that are watching. which, by the way, this is only like the third one that's had video. So if you're watching,
So it's
you're
the
welcome.
oldest brewery in the world, which means probably not the highest hygiene. You know,
It tastes a little sweaty. No, but it's good. It's a German Weiss beer for sure, and that's why I brought up here today. I knew we were going European, so I stuck with some. We've got some Axis deer, which it's funny because I think that is actually European. I think they were accidentally imported to the Hawaiian Islands from somewhere in Europe. That's the Axis deer summer sausage there. Where are you looking? Yeah, right there. There's your little thing. That's some spicy beer mustard and some extra sharp cheddar cheese there too. I hooked it up in the man room today. I haven't done this much for a guest yet, so you really have like a spread in front of you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sausage is really good.
I kind of felt like,
that.
you and I used to always have these kind of long conversations when we worked at when I worked for you at KPNW, and I always felt like those conversations were missing some good summer sausage and a good beer, yeah, which a lot of times they weren't actually missing beer because
No, it's
a radio studio.
The beer flowed like wine.
it's
at
very
that time.
true. It's very true. Are you guys still getting the hookup with beer as far as you, doing advertising and stuff for those companies?
No, not like we used to. I had mentioned to you earlier that for a couple of years, Widmer was sponsoring the studio. And so we had this big cooler full of beer. And it was, so Widmer was bought out by Anheuser-Busch, also known as AB. And Anheuser-Busch went out and started buying up all these little microbrews, like 10 barrel over in, it's over in Eastern Oregon. It may be Bend.
Yeah, it's Bend.
They're buying them up and all of these others. And, you guys, when you were doing the show on K-Fly, you guys were, the Bud station. And one of the things we've always done on the Wake Up Call is, we focused on our craft breweries around here. And we were looking at, doing something. It's like, well, you guys have craft beer, so set us up with Widmer, set us up with some of the others. So we had a cooler in there that had,
Bunch of good stuff in it.
a bunch of good stuff in it. And it was really awesome until it wasn't. And Anheuser-Busch pulled a bunch of money out of the market, and that was, and that was promotional money. And they just went, okay, we're not doing that anymore. It's like, Now the cooler that they had given us sits in there, and it has like a carton of a dozen eggs and some Jimmy Dean sausage that and I'm not lying about this, has been in there for about 2 years.
Oh, God.
And many times I've thought about, I really ought to throw that away, but I'm afraid to open the cooler.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to explode that bomb because carpeted walls in that studio, the smell will never go away.
No. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I just want to just cart the cooler and everything off and leave it on a corner and hope that, somebody thinks, oh, well, this will be good in our homeless camp, and cart it off and take it there. So,
actually the place to take it is down by campus. Put it next to some, it looks like campus housing, put free on it. It'll be in a frat house by next Tuesday and up and running and clean as a whistle too.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure that's totally legal to do that.
Yeah, but it happens, and we're going to get into that too because I have written here some things. You and I share a lot of similar views on things like government and
we hate it.
Yeah, it's a very Ron Swanson view of the government.
We hate it. It's pretty simple.
But I want to talk to you about some stuff going on locally. I have to get this one out of the way first, though, since we're still kind of lighthearted here. And I know this sounds a little bit strange for me to ask another person, another man especially, but I want my listeners to trust me here. I have a vested interest in this.
I don't know. I've never measured.
But how's your prostate?
My prostate's good, thank you.
Do you remember
we
why?
were close, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we used to do Proctober, and I always felt weird about going to a mall parking lot to have somebody stick their finger up my ass.
Yeah.
It was so weird. You're standing out there with a group of other people and in tents. They set up tents. And just to have it done in a parking lot, there was a certain surreal quality to that. It's not like you go to a doctor's office and you're leaning over the table and he does what he does. No, you're in a tent with a vinyl flap between you and 30 other guys that are sitting out there waiting to the doctor to do the same thing to them.
Oh my God, it sounds like a tailgate gone wrong.
Oh, a horrible. Or one from certain parts of Amsterdam.
Now, I really want you guys to understand that are listening to this right now how
Have your
uncomfortable.
prostates checked.
Yes, do that for sure. But how uncomfortable it must have been for Bill to be in that setting and not mention the fact that he was doing it live on the radio with us over the phone. That didn't even come into the lexicon.
I forgot about that. Well, it was such a, everything else about it was so weird. There's only so much surrealism that one person can just absorb in the 30 seconds that it takes to drop trow and have some guy attack you from behind. It's just like, okay. And you're listening to other people out there having conversations about their jobs, about, their wife, their yard. They got to change the hot water heater.
They got a new driver.
Yeah. It's like, what? Where am I? This is not right.
Oh,
this
man.
is supposed to be a more solemn thing.
Well,
not a fair event.
I'm going to do a callback here from another podcast when we were talking about vasectomies, and one of my friends
haven't had one.
He mentioned that the only thing that he the only thing he can offer as far as advice was concerned is don't get Dr. McShaky fingers. Have you ever had Dr. McShaky fingers for any of your prostate exams?
No.
That's good.
No, thankfully.
Even in a mall parking lot.
Okay, so this is a true story, and I have to tell you this. You may ask yourself, how does a doctor learn practically how to do that? All right, because it's just not something you just, okay, I've got my sheepskin on the wall, and now I'm just going to be sticking my fingers in people's butts.
Yeah,
So,
there's a thing, isn't there? There's like an apparatus.
No, there's real people.
Oh,
that are prostate teaching aids, where I swear to God, this came up in a conversation that I had with a doctor, actually a dermatologist, and we got into this conversation just like, yeah, I could be a general practitioner. I decided that I was going to do dermatology and so on and so forth. And we were just kind of going back and forth. Real nice gal. And we're just kind of going back and forth about it. And it just came, I don't even remember how it came up. And she started telling me, she goes, the weirdest thing though was learning how to do a prostate exam. And it's not something you just think about. And I said, well, how do you learn that? And she said, well, they have volunteers that get paid to essentially allow you to train on them. And she said, so here's this guy, and they're saying, okay, well, lube up and stick your fingers in. And the guy is telling her, no, you're not far enough in. Further in.
The guy that's the test subject?
The guy that's the test subject.
Oh,
he's done apparently thousands of these. And he's no.
So his prostate's like leather?
Well, he knows where you're supposed to hit.
It sounds like he's too excited to be in there.
I thought it was a little bit dodgy myself, but whatever. And she's like, no, further in. Okay, now curve your fingers down a little bit. Okay, there. That's it. And she said, honestly, she said, I was a little bit emotionally bruised by the whole thing. She's because I've got this just random guy who's going, no, further in. Okay, now curve your finger. Okay, now there. That's there. You've got the prostate.
And he's not a doctor. He's like, he works in like a factory.
No, well, yeah, but he's had so many people
do it. Yeah,
essentially do it that he knows what the right deal to do is.
This guy is leaving every single test, and he's calling his friends going, can you believe I get paid for this? This is amazing.
This is awesome. This is awesome.
He's enjoying it way too much. I thought, because I've seen, and this might just be because this was a video from Asia that I saw. I can't comment on which country it was.
Violence from Asia?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
I don't know the difference between Japanese and Chinese characters. I just know that the writing was not in English, and the video was.
Are you sure it was a medical video?
Yes, because it was actually it was a computer screen, Bill, and I'm not joking about this either. You can look this up. Maybe we'll even find it and share it in the description. Is a computer screen, and right below the computer screen was a plastic butt. And then there was a spot for them to put their hand, and they got feedback on the screen. Like, the screen wasn't like numbers and medical information.
Right.
The screen was a guy looking back at you who would and he was supposed to respond in the in kind. If you were rough, he was going to act like you were being rough. If you weren't in far enough, I don't know, maybe he doesn't give you advice like this other guy that you just brought up. But
so this is virtual medical porn is what you're saying.
They're teaching people with it. I mean, I have to guess with their advancements in technology, it was China. I really do have to think that because they're very advanced technologically.
So did he have like something up his butt to know that you were doing it right?
No, there was no person there. It was completely virtual. This had no human, and this was just a plastic butt. Like, you could buy one of these at Castle Megastore, okay, and then it but it had like some sensors
out of the prostate
inside.
exam section. They're right by the multi-packs of butt plugs.
Oh, man. I did not know we were going to get this far into it. I'm so glad that we did. This is the Man Room Podcast. Welcome, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. See, the fact that they have dummies that you can practice on does not surprise me a bit. My father and I still have the catalog because I saw it and went, wow, this is amazing. It was for... when you go into a doctor's office, like you go to an optometrist and you see this model of an eyeball and you can pull it apart and look at all the different parts of it.
Oh, yeah.
Or, I mean, they have them for
knees, elbows, everything.
Ears, everything. It was a catalog of that stuff. Okay. And they had literally every body part that you could imagine, either in whole or in part, that you could buy. Whether we're talking about butts, I mean, they had realistic rubber testicles or whatever they're made out of so that you can, I guess, check for testicular cancer. I mean, I looked at it, I was like, this is crazy.
Which one was the most expensive body part? Was it the balls? Lots of small parts.
I want to say... God, I'm trying to remember. Well, there was some stuff in there. It was really super expensive. They had a whole human body that you could just pull apart.
That seems, once again, I understand.
That was thousands of dollars. So that here's this body, and you open up its torso cavity, and here's a heart, and you take the heart out. Oh, here's the lungs, and you work your way down. That was thousands.
I understand I understand the medical practicality 100%. I also refuse to believe that there's not the next Hannibal Lecter out there picking one of these bodies apart. Right?
Ooh, it's a study guide.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ooh, next time I'm going for the bladder.
Yeah, there you go. Well, hey, man, there's lots of money in medical science, and it doesn't only come from being the person at the end of the scalpel or the person with the beaker in their hand. Like, you could just make beakers and then sell them, and there's a lot of people that buy a lot of beakers. So.
Or fake body parts.
There you go. You could literally be a high school prop, like you're a prop artist in high school. You're dreaming about the big screen. LA is dying. It's going to fall into the ocean by 2025. Don't go there. Make medical body parts and make bank, and then nobody can ever judge your work like an asshole.
Yeah. No, it's totally a niche thing, but somebody's making beaucoup money off of it.
Yeah. Or you could make sex dolls. Those are a thing, too, and they're really too real for me to be comfortable with.
Did you ever see the special? It was on BBC. I think it was called Living Doll.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's where I got most of my experience with it.
Except for the other.
Do you remember
the one guy in that? And watching that, I don't know what your feelings were. I'm watching this, I'm sort of like, okay, this is just kind of creepy. Okay, these people are just not quite right. The one guy that lived by himself in the middle of nowhere that had the long hair, and you looked at it and went, oh my God, that guy is serial killer material. That one guy, and it's like, thank God he has one of those because that's probably saved lives.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I think it runs the gamut from that as the most extreme on one side all the way to the other side of maybe the friendliest, softest, gentlest person that you'll ever meet, but still extremely mentally conflicted.
It was the guy that had one, and he looked completely normal. He acted completely normal, and then he had the girlfriend, and then he introduced the girlfriend to the doll, and then I think like 3 months later she left him,
right,
or something.
Probably sooner than that.
Yeah. And that guy, it's like, oh, he seems normal. No, he's not normal.
No, as much as I'd like to say, look, if that's something that you want to do, you have a sex doll, you do your thing with it, whatever, that's fine. But the whole transposing that into like, I'm going to date this thing, I'm going to treat it like it's a human being,
and take it on trips.
Yeah, it's really weird. And don't think that the people that are watching you when you take it to Austria to go on hikes aren't looking at you strange when you drag it along a dirt trail in a Red Ryder wagon, It's
come on. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful?
We're trying to be as inclusive as we can, and when we do that, this is what happens.
This is, that picture that you brought in my head when you talk about pulling it around in a wagon. One of the weirdest experiences I ever had early on in radio was broadcasting live every day from the Oregon State Fair.
Oh, God.
I mean, the whole show. I mean, music, everything on site. This is before, hard drive and crap. And this lady, Saturday morning, comes walking up, and she's pulling this wagon, and it has a blanket over it. And she comes trundling up, and we're right over there by where they had the sturgeon that used to be, the big sturgeon they had. And we're right by that.
Happiest fish in the world, that
right.
sturgeon.
And
never moved.
She wanders up, and she's talking to me, and I'm trying to be, Mr. PR, and so, hi, how you doing? And she's seems real off, and like, hi, how are you doing? So what are you doing? She goes, oh, I'm just here with my friends. And I'm looking around, and the gates had just opened, and I'm looking around, and it's like, oh, are your friends around here? Oh yeah, they're in the wagon. I'm looking at this wagon, and like, I'm thinking, oh, maybe she has farm animals or something that she's taking to the livestock exhibit. I'm like, oh, your friends are in the wagon? She says, yeah. So she turns around, walks over to the wagon. I still can't really see what's in it because she's blocking it, and she was not small. And she turns around, and she has 4 doll heads on her fingers. And she's like, these are my friends.
Oh, my God.
And she starts talking to them and doing like, hey, yeah, I'm so happy. I can't wait to go in the zipper. And, hi, how are you? Busy. I need to do something else now. Thanks for stopping by. Nice meeting you. Bye. I'm going to turn around in this little tiny outhouse-sized kiosk with a window in it and pretend like I'm doing something so I don't have to talk to you.
So
God.
What is it about? And look, there's a lot of Donkey Show fans, a lot of fans from my days in the radio that listen to this show, and I appreciate you all. I don't think that I'm talking about you. When I ask Bill, why is it that radio is so adept at attracting crazy people? I mean, it doesn't matter where you're at. You could be at a 1.5 hour remote at a Dairy Mart. Mm-hmm. You could be at the State Fair, which is actually probably, you're kind of sticking your neck out there at the State Fair. But literally anywhere else, anywhere where you are broadcasting live, you're
going to get a nut job.
It's like they say, meth heads kind of gravitate towards authority because they want to, they're thinking they're helping, and they're kind of lost in their own thoughts, so they go towards cops. That's the same thing when there's a radio mic on and a crazy person around. They find a way. It's like the frequencies run through their head, and they just gravitate towards the mic. Mm-hmm. You've been in radio how long?
Oh, God. 1982.
So 39 years.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. But in 39 years... there's no shortage of crazy people at live events that you can count.
No.
Is it the microphone?
It's odd. I had this conversation with, I can't even remember who it was with, not all that long ago. And it was somebody who was not in radio, and they were asking about, well, what are kind of things about what you do that are completely different from, normal people's jobs? And one of the things that came to mind is every radio station, every single one has a person with severe mental disabilities that is a rabid fan that will call every day.
Multiple times sometimes.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Now, you remember the guy that ended up on Stern and was a Howard Stern show and was a regular that lived here locally?
Yeah, we had him on all the time.
Yeah.
And this is not appropriate anymore, and we know that. When I say his name was Gary the Retard, he now is Gary the Superhero, I believe.
I knew Gary long before he was ever on the Stern show because he lived in Albany. And he called every flippin' radio station that he could hear. And the way that he even ended up on the Howard Stern show, do you know the story?
I don't think that I do. I think that I heard it back when we were doing the show and he would come on all the time.
Essentially, when they were, when radio stopped being local and everybody was picking up national shows, I think it was KUFO out of Portland, 101.
Yeah.
They picked up the Stern show. And the guy that used to do mornings there was no longer there, and they just had a guy board opping, which just means he just moves levers up and down and plays commercials when they call for him from the network. And so Gary calls up one morning, to talk to the guy that he used to talk to that worked there. And the guy said, you know what? Here, call this number. And he gave him Stern's number. And that's how Gary ended up on. And every radio station, we've got this guy now that calls on KPNW almost every day. His name's Daryl. And Daryl is he sounds like he's drunk. And I don't know exactly what his issue really is, but he sounds very much. First time he ever called us, I thought, God, this guy's like drinking really early.
Yeah.
Because he calls in at 6:05 and, hi, this is Daryl. I'm like, whoa, this guy's on a bender of a bender. He calls in every day, and he claims to have knowledge about essentially everything. I don't think that he necessarily has what I would call, severe mental disabilities, but he's definitely weird and has delusions of grandeur. Every station has one. They do, and they call every day. Why? I don't know. Does television have that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I mean, I don't know. My only experience with television is I dated a girl that worked for KVAL for a little bit, and she never talked like that. But the thing is they have that buffer, because it's not the desk people that are going to deal with those people. It's the field reporters that are going to deal with those people. And those poor field reporters, they never get to speak their mind about anything. It's just like, grab your camera, go out there. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, we fired the guy that used to drive you around and edit this. You're doing it all now, you know? So, but I'm sure any place that there's a local number that can be called, they call. And look, some of it is absolutely great. I will not say that it's a bad thing. I love the pure and simple fact that there's somebody that cares enough to call every day out there, and whoever it is great. We're not disparaging this at all.
No, I mean, we talked to Daryl, treated the guy with respect. I mean, my first radio gig, we had this guy named Freddie Acosta that would always call, and he's like, hello, my friend, this is Freddie. Would you play Sam and Cheryl Wooey Wooey for me? Okay, Freddie. Okay, man. All right, how you doing? And he would show up at events, and he would always have his hat pulled down. Basically, you couldn't even see his eyes. He had it pulled down almost all the way over his nose. And he would come out. I was always nice to him. I think part of it is, and maybe this is the thing, I mean, some people feel like this about radio in particular, that the people that are on there are their friends.
Yeah.
And particularly, they just feel like they know you. They're your friends. And I think that's just an extension of it.
Sure.
They really believe that this is my personal friend. And so they call up to talk to their friend.
Right.
And that's okay.
I think that's actually the mark of a good radio personality, is to be able to break through that this guy is a different person than me and than all the rest of us. This person, I feel like I'm part of the conversation.
Accessible.
I feel like they're accessible, exactly. And so, but Look, we're in like a spot right now, and I think we don't know it. I've been saying this for a while now, but radio as we know it is changing right now.
Oh, it changed a long time ago.
And
Sorry.
No, it's okay. And I want to get your thoughts on it because,
I got thoughts.
I bet you do. And I don't know how it went for you last year during the initial COVID and everything. I'm sure knowing your job, you were probably just about the only person in the studio each day. Maybe you and your co-host. Was Rob coming on from home or was he coming into the studio?
No, he was coming in.
So you guys probably were, I mean, I know it was a skeleton crew because I talked to you, but that's every single radio personality that I know from news to entertainment to sports. This COVID thing swiped all the salespeople out of the building, all the executives out of the building, all the programmers out of the building, and left the talent there to sink or swim, essentially, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind, there's a 150,000 watt radio tower out there that's got to operate.
Yeah.
Bill knows how to take care of that shit, but nobody else in that building does, aside from the guy that they sent home in March.
Sometimes I don't even think the engineer knows how to deal with that shit. Since you put it that way so succinctly.
Yeah, so what is it that you think, like, is this, because I know a bunch of people, too. I know a guy named B-Dub who does country radio. He just built out an entire studio in his house on the station's tab because he's just syndicating from his home now.
A lot of people did that.
Is that where radio's going now that it's that easy to do?
Oh, I think that's almost anymore, or I'm beginning to think that's kind of a one-off. No, I'll tell you where it's going. This plays out to the early parts of deregulation, and this is so inside baseball.
I'm such a radio nerd, you guys.
All right, so for folks that are listening and you don't know, it used to be a long time ago, it used to be you could only, that a group could only own like 2 or 3 radio stations total. And that started to change under the Reagan administration, where you could own more than 2 or 3 radio stations, where you could own 5 or 6. And then under the Clinton administration, they were just like, okay, you can own several radio stations in any market you want to own them in. This is the dumbed down version. And then that opened up a little bit more, and it was these big companies started buying up radio stations everywhere, to where you had, at one point, I think it was Clear Channel, which became such a poisoned brand that they changed it to iHeart, because it's so nice now. It's so warm and it's iHeart. Oh, yeah. It's so warm and fuzzy.
We worked for Clear Channel when one day we went to work and they said Clear Channel just sold off all markets under the top 100, and everybody went, hey, what number's Eugene?
Yeah, you're well under 200. Yeah. You're up for sale. Have a nice day. And, what they were doing was they were public, and they were driving their market price through acquisition. And they finally got to a point where they couldn't own any more radio stations because there were no more radio stations to buy. So then, to make money, it was, because they should have been making it selling advertising, you're still not making enough advertising. So then it was, we need to cut overhead. Way back in 2001, I was on a conference call with other program directors from Clear Channel all over the country. And Randy Michaels, who was in charge of programming for, I think it was 1,300 radio stations at the time, said what the plan was going to be. Hub and spoke. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a hub in, I'll just give the Northwest as an example. We're going to have a hub in Seattle. The talent will be in Seattle. They will voice track, send stuff to the stations in Portland and Eugene and Bend and Boise and so on and so forth, so that you would have basically a building with maybe 10 or 15 people that are the live local talent all over the Pacific Northwest. Well, guess what? That's what it is. That's what it has become. And that's pretty much what it is now with these big companies. And you essentially just have a few people in a building that are keeping the local stations on the air, and the talent is 500 miles away. 1,000 miles away.
Do you feel like that really waters down the local experience for a city the size of Eugene?
You know what? Okay. So everybody talks about podcasts. And, you're doing one.
Yeah, everybody is.
Everybody, yeah. Anybody that can buy a microphone is doing a podcast. Why are people listening to podcasts? Because podcasts are providing content, and they're providing original content that radio stations used to offer, but don't.
And in some cases have disallowed.
Yes. Oh, for God's sakes.
You couldn't get away with anything these days.
I'll be honest. I listen to a music station, and, the guy comes on, okay, well, that was, Taylor Swift, and coming up it's going to be, whoever the hot country guy is of the day. This is Taylor Swift, and coming up it's going to be such and such, and then it's going to be such and such right here on wherever. Well, you don't need to hire a local person to do that.
Right.
Any idiot can do that. But to create local content, you can't do that from Seattle. You're not going to have a guy from Seattle that's going to be talking about, Emily Semple on the Eugene City Council and how she believes that we need to start using birth control for rats to control the rat problem in the WIT and North Eugene, and that everybody should be given free rat traps, and they should put out collection barrels for the dead rats. No shit.
Yeah. If we want to control the rats, maybe we shouldn't be a sanctuary city. I'm just saying.
But what I'm saying is you're not going to get that from your jock in Seattle that is voice tracking on your Cumulus stations here locally.
No, I get you.
And I think that radio has essentially shot itself in the balls, and has been for a long time. What they've done is, why listen to local radio? If you want to hear the same 150 songs over ad nauseum, you can do that on Spotify. You don't need to listen to a local radio station to do that. That's going to, when you're in your car, it's going to break up. You can do it on Spotify. But people that want to have content, that want to hear something interesting, that want somebody to tell them a story, whether it's a comedian or they want to hear something true crime, or they want to listen to, ever listen to Shit Town?
No, I have. Oh, yes, I have. Shit Town, yes. That's such a good one.
Or I like Freakonomics.
Yep. Vanished is a good one.
Vanished is good. Radio Lab, any of those. They're going to podcasts for content. It's what radio used to do. Hello.
Yep.
Hello. What's happening to radio? Radio killed itself. It stopped doing content.
Yeah. That makes sense, man. And you're one of the fortunate ones that still gets to produce content because you cover the news and you do a phenomenal job covering locally. You've always worked very hard at that. But I do kind of feel like, as I look at that radio studio pulled back just 5-6 short years after I was done working there, you're one of the few people left that has anything to do with what I would call content. The rest of it is, it's just.
I don't want to bag on my fellow coworkers. Yeah, you're right.
not to disparage any of them. There's a billion people in that building that I really enjoy as people, and I think are very talented people. However, I listened to what they were doing when I was there, and I had no effect on this, but time period wise, I listened to what they were doing when I was there, and I listen to it now, and I see two completely different products, and you can tell that there's a lot of top-down pressure on the one that goes on now, and there was a lot of stifled creativity, if you will. And when we say that, I get scolded for talking about the Donk Show a lot on the show, but once again, it's part of my life, so I'm going to use it to relate to this. We would never, 6 short years ago, we would never get away with it. I don't even think they would have let us do a prostate exam on the air right now. No goddamn way. And that...
I could do it.
That was considered tame for us. I mean, that was a very tame thing.
Okay, can I tell my favorite donkey show story?
Of course, except for I have to tell you before, you were wondering where my other experience with the sex dolls came from earlier in the program.
Did you have to do one for the donkey show?
No, we tied one to a bunch of helium balloons and floated her out. It was the Fatty Patty sex doll, and we sent her up in the air, and she got caught in the power lines between here and Junction City. That was my other experience.
Okay.
Anyway, your favorite story, please do.
And this story, by the way, so I have an uncle, my only surviving uncle, and he is 87 years old. And I told him this story, and I thought he was going to crap himself. So people, and this gives you an insight into radio, too, for folks that have never experienced that environment, which is way different than most offices. So we're having a management meeting. Now, at the stations there, the management meeting was the general manager. He's the guy that oversees everybody. The sales manager, who oversees all the people that go out and sell commercials.
Two of our biggest fans.
Yeah. The traffic manager, and when you say traffic in radio, it's not people it's like, oh, there's a wreck on the belt line. They're the ones that actually schedule commercials and do the billing as they
add traffic.
Yeah. And you have the program directors for each radio station. So I'm in there. Carl was the PD for K-Fly at the time, Val for K-Duck, and Barry for KODZ. You've got the production manager. He's the guy that makes sure that all the commercials gets on the air. So you have all these people sitting in there, and they're all, we kind of go around the table, round table discussion, and talking about what's going on with their station and challenges they may have or promotions they have coming up, et cetera. So you get to Carl. And
poor Carl.
Carl, they were doing some, ticket giveaway and a couple of other things, and he was looking forward to the next book and what they were going to do. And the general manager, whom I won't mention by name, who had a bit of a drinking problem, so I thought we had and Carl, it just broadsided Carl. Now, mind you, I'm just sitting there just watching and listening to this. Now, this is a manager's meeting.
Right, not a one-on-one with Carl and the GM, as this probably should have been.
And this is a management, so, you conjure up your own versions of your workplace of what management meetings are like. He looks at Carl and he goes, Carl, I thought that we were pretty clear on the idea that before any stunts were going to be happening on the Donkey Show, that they were not only supposed to go through you, but they were supposed to go through me. And now my ears are perking up because I'm like, obviously something didn't go through him. And I look over at Carl, and Carl is shrinking. He's like starting to slide down physically in his chair. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is just not going to be good. And Carl is my friend. And Carl, you'd have to know Carl. Carl is kind of my soul brother because he's like I am. He can be just volatile and just pissy as hell. And it's just like, so he and I, and even though I'm older, it's kind of, I looked at him and went, oh, young me. Okay. And Carl's starting to shrink, and yeah, we did have the agreement. So what the hell was that crap yesterday going on the Donkey Show? I don't recall that going through me. Now my curiosity is really piqued.
Because you want to know what we did.
I want to know. And Carl's like, well, they did go through, they told me. Well, why didn't you say something to me, God damn it? Well, I just, I thought that, it would be under control. Bullshit. You are supposed to come to me and tell me anytime that they are doing a goddamn stunt. At this point, Carl is way shrunk. Everybody is sort of like staring off like they're not in the room.
And Bill's not overselling this either, because this man that he's talking about that he refused to mention by name has a penchant for doing this. He will shout you down in a room full of people in a heartbeat.
Now, my first natural inclination is, what the fuck did they do? So I just go, excuse me. I said, just for clarification, can somebody please explain what it is that we're actually talking about here? Since we're all in the room, can somebody please tell me? And Carl looks over at me with a look that was like, why did you ask? Carl looks at me and goes, well, we have this guy that's on the show. He's from a local band, and he came in and asked us if we wanted to see him do a trick. Well, can you be more specific what the trick is? Well, he asked us if we wanted to see him set his dick on fire. And again, everybody else looking off like, I'm not here. I'm not hearing this. And I'm barely able to keep from just busting a gut. And I'm just like, oh, okay.
That old thing.
And oh, okay. Then Larry starts up. Oops.
It's all right.
And then he's like, you could have set the goddamn studio on fire. And I put my hand up to kind of stop him, because now I'm feeling for Carl, because I'm seeing what's going on here. And I'm like, well, Carl, did you have any way that, you were going to keep that from getting out of control? Well, yeah, we had a plan in place in case, fire got out of control.
We had a couple of fucking soda cups.
Okay, yes. And this is what Carl says. Yeah, we were going to pour beer on it. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. And Carl's like, well, he was standing over a garbage can, and we were going to pour beer on him if it's any. It's like, well, how does he set it? And I'm like, now it's like, okay, how does this work? How do you set it on fire? And he's like, well, he poured Everclear. I think it was Everclear.
No, he had a jar. He had a mason jar of Everclear that he would pack around. Well, he wouldn't pour. He would dip.
Yeah. Oh,
that's why he had the mason jar. Don't drink out of that one.
Put Everclear and then set fire to it. Larry, you're gonna add an explosion there. Oh, you're gonna put it out with fucking beer? What the hell? What is wrong with God damn it? He goes, this is bullshit. I'm writing them up. I'm writing you up. And Carl is sitting there, and at this point, I get to my point where I'm fed up with him beating up on Carl. And I look over at him going, can I say something here? Because I'm a manager. This is a management meeting. I want to give my management input. What? And I said, okay. I said, I'm imagining that I'm sitting on my station, a conservative talk station, and I'm doing my show in the morning, and somebody comes in and says, you want to see me set my dick on fire? I am saying, fuck yeah.
That's all right, Bill. That's
absolutely right. Do it. I said, I don't give a shit whether you like it or not. If somebody says they're going to come on my show and they're going to set their junk on fire, I'm going, damn straight.
Yeah. Get
absolutely.
Some beer. Get some beer in case he can't put
absolutely.
It out.
Oh, no, it's that time of the morning. I'm throwing coffee on it. I said, I'm saying yeah. I said, who wouldn't? And he just sat there. The GM just sat there and stared at me. And I said, I'm telling you the truth. I said, any of these other people in this room don't have the balls to tell you they would do the same thing. I am. I don't blame them for doing it. I would do the same thing. Leave Carl alone.
You're a godsend, Bill. You know that? Carl probably was just thanking you silently, sitting there right then and there.
He didn't say a word, and I didn't blame him. I know what it's like to be on that end.
Right.
And it was just... but the thing was, I wasn't just defending Carl. I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
I would. You walk in and say, hey, you want to see me set my Mr. Johnson on fire? Uh-huh.
Yeah, I do.
Please do.
And guys, this was the Athearchists, as you may remember.
That's
from
right,
from
the
Eugene.
Athearchists.
That drumhead right over there on the wall is signed by the Athearchists there. It says words like party and don't, won't, and can't aren't real words. You know, the Athearchists, they had a hollowed-out U-Haul that they used to go around and do drive-by metal shows with. We sent them to the Eugene Library one time.
It was like Caribbean jump-ups. They would just show up and start playing.
They were great, and you know what? That
And
was
if
a
they're
great
listening,
day.
God bless you, because that was the ultimate management meeting. You think you have weird management meetings? Sit in a management meeting where they're arguing about and screaming about somebody setting their balls on fire. I guarantee you that doesn't happen at CBT Nuggets or Pape.
No.
I guarantee you.
And let me tell you something. It will spice up your boring office job. If you can find some people that get into that type of shit at your place of work, your management meetings will never be the same. I know that that's your favorite story, but I'm sure that wasn't the only time that you sat through a meeting that was not designed to talk about exactly what it was that we were in trouble for on said week. But,
I think there was another one, too, where they were pissed off because you guys were smoking dreadlocks out of a bong.
It wasn't dreadlocks, but it was body hair. Oh, wait, that's not true. So that's the one that sticks on my legacy. My legacy is going to have a bong with body hair in it because that was a lost Super Bowl bet, one of the very first ones I did. And I still get questions about that to this day. Was that real body hair? Yeah, it was. It was a lot. It was the stunt guy's body hair, and I had to smoke a whole bowl out of a brand new clean bong, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. We gave away.
Was that Man Yams, a guy that looked like Smeagol from The Hobbit?
He didn't have enough body hair to fill half a bowl. It was B-Rock.
Okay.
You remember B-Rock?
I think he was before my time.
Oh, he might have been before you came down. Yeah. But anyway, we gave a guy tickets one time because he cut his dreadlock and smoked it. And I will tell you, the dreadlock was way more offensive smelling than just the regular hair. The regular hair singes and goes away. That dreadlock burnt. And it burnt for a while, and it smelled really bad. And, but there was a lot of stuff that we did that it might affect the studio for a couple of hours. It's not something that was like as bad as the time that I cooked the pot stickers in the sauce with the broccoli, and then I warmed them up in the kitchen, and the whole place smelled like feet for like 2 days. And then Drew burnt
I was
going to
say,
in there.
Drew put like bacon in the microwave for 45 minutes or some damn thing. And the whole building smelled like just burned bacon.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. Well, we're getting close to the hour mark here, so I got to go through some of these notes or else I'm going to feel like all the prep was useless, but I knew that we wouldn't have trouble going over
You asked about COVID. It sucked, and it was skeleton crew, and it was, and then you throw the fire in with it.
Right. The fires were crazy, and I bet you were probably sleeping in the studio during the Great Pacific Northwest fires of last year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, most definitely. For a week and a half.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been cool because you've always been my local guy that's like, if some shit's going down and I really want to know what's going down, I send you a text. And that's why you don't hear from me that often, is because shit doesn't go down that often. But
no, this is Eugene.
I can't watch the local news and be sure that it's going to happen because I'm just as likely to get coverage of a fucking Little League baseball game as I am to get what I actually care about what's going on. So the fires were nuts, obviously. You had coverage coming in literally by what? Like every 15 minutes they were updating things, right? I mean, was it... Or you were updating things, sorry.
I always do updating things every 15 minutes. I discovered at one point that, and again, going back to the original theme of radio stations being gutted by their, demonic overlords, that there were no radio stations really that were covering much other than Portland. And Portland... they're covering the fires outside of Clackamas.
Right, they don't care about anything happening down here.
No, they could give a crap about what was going on in Lynn County or Lincoln County, and I'm looking at all these different fire mats and satellite pictures, and I'm getting stuff from all these different counties. I'm like, oh God, And I broke in at one point because they were evacuating Lincoln City.
Yeah, I remember that. It was crazy.
And I'm doing that, and I get off the air, and I get this phone call, and it's like, nobody is talking about Lincoln City. That is the first time I've heard about it. I've got a daughter that lives in Lincoln City. I must have gotten 20 calls from people telling more about Lincoln City. So at that point, it was like, oh, this is an indication that maybe I need to expand my range rather than just Lynn County, Douglas County, and Lane County. And so pretty much, all the way up into Marion County, I'm doing stuff. And I cannot tell you how many emails I was getting from people in places. It's like they're listening on the stream. They couldn't even hear the radio station, but they were listening on the stream because even the local radio stations in Lincoln City weren't giving them information that they were evacuating.
Because they don't have people there that are capable of doing it one way or the other. Maybe they don't know where they need to look, or maybe they don't even have anybody on staff and it's just being pumped through,
It was insane. And at one point, it's like, well, if I'm the only one, okay, I accept that responsibility. I guess I'll be the only one, and I'm going to be putting in some long hours, but oh well.
It's needed. And you know what? Hats off to you, because people don't understand the amount of people that get that first lick of what's going on right in their hometown on the radio. People don't turn on the TV for that. That's appointment viewing. You got to be there at 6. You are there round the clock some days, 24 hours some days even, updating every 15, 20 minutes. And it's something that I hope never dies in radio because it's accessible to everyone. It's the easiest thing to get.
Yeah, but, and particularly up in the Holiday Farm fire, sorry, your cell tower goes down, which they did. Your cell tower, the Comcast goes down, which happens everywhere without big fires. The Comcast goes down, all that other stuff goes away. Well, the one thing you still have, you can still pick up a radio.
Right.
You still got to have a radio in your car, and you can get that. And all of a sudden, it becomes really important. And so you kind of, for me, I look at it as, being on a news talk station, that's your Super Bowl. Right.
You got to be there and you got to perform.
That's like, okay, now this is A game shit.
Yeah.
This is not, I'm, whatever, there was a car wreck. I'm going to go home because I've been here for a while. No, this is like, okay, step up, dude. This is where you make your bones. This is where you prove your worth. This is where, you're needed now.
Right.
So do your job. And that's the way I approached it. And yeah, I slept on the couch in the sales office and, was eating. Oh man, there's nothing better than Nally's chili over a sink,
in the can.
Yeah. In the can, cold over the sink, eating Nally's chili. It's like, oh man, this is the best chili I've ever had. It's wonderful. But, I look at it and went, okay, I'm on a news talk station. Better do news.
Yeah. And nobody else is. And that's tragic, to be honest, because, it's not like you're the only news talk station even in this city. And there's a full other station of people that would be willing to, that might be willing to, for some reason,
thank you.
Yeah, grab another beer. I'll fill up the time for a little bit. That should be, at least reasonably considering going on and doing that same type of coverage. And it's, like I said, hats off to you, because as a radio nerd, I know that's, like you said, that's your Super Bowl. And I also know that that's something that I hope never goes away, is that local personality that can always deliver a good feeling for what goes on locally. And you can't feel the Holiday Farm fire from a personality up in Portland. Lars Larson, he might be talking about it. He might be talking about every fire in the state, but he's only going to touch on the couple that aren't bothering him personally. He's not going to spend a lot of time. And you look at those, like we talked about earlier with the Spoke and Hub thing. Yeah, it's cool to have a really big personality like that based out of Portland. He's only 100 miles away, whatever. He's not talking about what's going on necessarily in the streets of Eugene or Albany or Salem. He's focusing on big city centers, Portland, Vancouver, Seattle especially.
Oh, yeah.
And,
he really, I'm not knocking Lars by any stretch of the imagination. I was trying to remember, because usually when there's something of import that happens down this direction, I'll be on his show. He'll call me up or his lackey will and say, "Can you be on?" And yeah, okay. I don't really remember him ever calling me during that. And it was, I say that with a caveat. It was all a hideous blur, really. But I don't remember him really doing much about it. But then again, I was so immersed for the first 2 weeks of just trying to get information and trying to sort out what was utter crap that was coming in that was not correct. That was the worst part of it, was trying to confirm stuff.
Tons of misinformation going out during those fires over social media and everything like
gosh.
that. It was unbelievable.
I mean, trying to sort out what was right, what was not right, and even getting conflicting information. I mean, there were a lot of people that stepped up, were doing support things, that even amongst the specific group or groups, they didn't have their information straight. You'd talk to one person that was the director, and he or she would say one thing, and then you would talk to the general manager of the same group, and they're saying something else, and the assistant vice president says some other thing. It's like, okay, so do we need to get the three of you on the phone here and come to a quorum on what the hell is going on? I mean, where they were collecting items for relief. I mean, there were 5 or 6 different groups that were involved in that. And God bless them.
Oh, they're doing great work.
God bless them, but they're all spreading different information.
Yeah. They don't have their own PIO like the police department does or something like that you can just call. Well, they might have that person, but they're not necessarily cut out for that position or informed enough to help,
By the way, the Weiss beer.
Yeah.
This is good.
Right? I did pretty good, didn't I?
Yeah, you did really good. This has got a nice spicy something going on with it.
Weinstefaner Hefweissbier from the old. I told you the spice is that's the sweatiness. It's the oldest brewery in the world right there.
It's got a nice spicy thing going that I like.
It's German sweat.
Oh. Well, Morpher's German sweat. I hope it's barmaid sweat.
It is. It's
because I'd hate to think it's Brewmeister droppings of some sort. Yeah, spread them over the vat. Yeah,
that's way too real, Bill.
Yeah, it makes it tasty.
So, moving forward into management, obviously, you and I could talk about forest management for years on this show. My father's a former forester. We lived through as mill employee family through the Clinton administration and all of the different logging regulations. Yeah, I mean, look, you can say what you want about Clinton and the whole thing. One of the things I feel like is forgotten a lot is the effect on the timber industry that administration had. And you could like Bill Clinton or hate him for the rest of his policy. Some of the reasons we had those fires last year is because of policy that was put in place when Clinton was president. And
I'm telling you, when OSU and their foresters, so for the first time ever, we did a Saturday morning wake-up call show. And it was the Saturday of that first week of fires. So the Labor Day, Labor Day fire started on Monday. That Saturday, I mean, stuff was still going on and getting evacuated, and Rob, the guy I do the show with, I after the show on Friday, because I'm still, doing news updates like every 15 minutes, I just walked in and said, okay, I'm doing a Saturday show. You're either in or you're not. But I'm going to do it. And he's like, I'm here. Let's do it. So I got 3 of the top foresters and forest science guys and the like from OSU. I called up OSU and was like, I need your 3 top guys on this. When you have those folks saying that, yeah, a big part of this is forest mismanagement, you got a problem, because there's a lot. And I asked the guy point blank, one of them, I can't remember his name, I asked him point blank, I said, how much of this was caused by just politics? And you could have put a stopwatch on the pause between me asking that question and the time that he finally answered. Well, there were 3 of them. And all of them, I knew what was going through their heads. I'm not going to answer that. I really don't want to answer that. I don't think I'll answer that. Maybe this guy will answer that. Maybe the other guy will answer that. And finally, one of them, after about 15 seconds, was like, a lot of it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to say 100% because his boss is politics.
Is the state.
Yeah, exactly. So he can't say what he really wants to say, but
he was very honest and said, this problem is, and I'm paraphrasing here.
Sure.
That the problem is politically caused, and it's going to require a political answer. Because the people that actually know the forests and what needs to happen in the forests are not the ones that make the decisions about the forests. This is years ago, and it was a fire. I can't remember the name of it. It was in Douglas County. And I went out and spent some time at fire camp and, watched the operations. And I'm talking to this guy from the Forest Service who had been at the Biscuit Creek, the Biscuit fire down in Southern Oregon, which at that time was
the fire.
It
was that one and the Canal Fire were 2 of the really, really big acreage ones that burn up in the Northeast.
Right.
Yep.
And I knew that after, all the big fires that we had, that this was going to be the case because of the Biscuit Fire. And he goes, the Biscuit Fire, and this guy worked the Biscuit Fire. He's one of the fire managers on it. And he goes, it was the nightmare situation for us. For the Forest Service. He goes, this was the nightmare situation that we were always afraid was going to happen because of the way that the forest policies have been created. We thought that it would be this and that would happen. And he goes, and it was our nightmare scenario. And talking about that, he said something that was really interesting. He said, the other thing is that he goes, none of the downed, burned, still usable timber was ever harvested from that because the environmental groups wouldn't allow it. He said the science that they're using made absolutely no sense. They're talking about how, oh no, you have to leave that there because it's good for the environment. And he said it's not. All of those burned trees, okay, that's charcoal. And when it rains, all of that charcoal, all of that ash, where does it go? It goes downhill. What's at the bottom of the hill? Well, in the case of the Holiday Farm Fire, the Mackenzie River. Fish are not built to breathe ash.
Right.
And all of that carbon, all of that charcoal, all of that debris from those burned trees, if you leave them there to just sit and rot, all of that is going into the Mackenzie. And all these people that scream about, oh, it's going to be bad for the fish if you take these trees out. Actually, this is going to be worse. All of those native-run trout that everybody's so worried about, well, this will kill them.
Yeah, they're done for.
Have a nice day.
Yep.
But no, just because, oh my God, it's a tree and somebody's going to make money off of it, therefore that's bad, therefore we must stop it. They're already doing it.
It's such stupid logic. It's not logic. I hate to say that. It doesn't have a basis in logic, that thought.
No, it's a dogma.
Yes.
At this point, it's religious dogma.
You're not going to save the world by not picking up that tree. And the other thing that I know, from not only my dad, but a bunch of people that I know that worked for the Forest Service people back in the 70s when my dad worked there, 70s and 80s, they marked timber sales. They went out in the woods and they marked tree by tree and they marked boundaries and they did assessments. They looked at the land. They decided what was going to be sold off for timber, what was going to be kept for sanctuary, whatever you want to say. That's what the Forest Service was tasked with. And right now, the Forest Service is tasked with what? Fighting fire. because they do not do any of that stuff that they used to do because they aren't able to anymore because of politics. And look, it doesn't matter what side of the coin you fall on. Nobody wants to see the goddamn forest burned down. Liberal, Democrat, woke, MAGA hat, it doesn't matter where you're at. Everybody wants to recreate there, and it really sucks that those politics that we just ran through are actually what's making the decisions that are causing those places to burn down, and we got to get away from that.
Well, I mean, when you can't even go in and clear underbrush, and the people that make the most, it's like, okay, wait a second. Have you ever been to a frickin' forest? You have all these, I mean, this is going to sound like a stereotype, and if it offends you, I don't care.
This is the man room. Sometimes you're going to get offended.
There are a bunch of, environmental dogmatists from Portland that essentially have been to maybe a national forest campground once. They don't know what it's like to go into the woods. Many of them have never been to them.
Yep.
They'll bitch and piss and moan about something that happens down in Douglas County or Jackson County, having never even been there.
Might never even have been to an adjacent county. And that's a real burner for people that live in those places.
And then you have situations, and I have to bring this up, and this kind of has to do with forest policy. So originally, the poster child for don't chop down a tree was the spotted owl.
Oh yeah. And they would spike trees, and they would build forests and trees, and they would hang from trees. They would do everything they could. They would lay down in front of log trucks.
They're going to save that spotted owl. Now, here's what I find interesting. Now, there is a program because there's the spotted owl, and then you have the barred owl, Barred. Well, the barred owl, being a survivor, is taking over the spotted owl territory because this barred owl is not, is a survivor.
Right. Think gray wolf, timber wolf.
And so the deal is, because the barred owl is actually a survivor, what's happening now is Fish and Wildlife is going in and killing and wiping out the barred owls because they're better survivors than the spotted owls.
So you're playing God.
Right.
You're literally playing God.
Let's get rid of the, apex survivor owl in favor of apparently the pussy owl. Let's go kill all the barred owls because, well, they're survivors, and the spotted owl here just, is too delicate.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you look at that and go, how does that make any sense?
Yeah. No, it's the same people, Bill, that made the decision to reintroduce the gray wolf into Oregon. And I know that you and I, once again, we could spend hours on that, but this is the problem that I've been trying to talk about since I came to Eugene in 2003, is that this state, and I really do believe this when I say this, even though over the last, 2, 3, 4 years, I thought that this state has been run into the ground politically and really just mismanaged, not because, we don't have nice cities, not because there's, look, the homeless problem we could get to on a completely other podcast and talk about the whole thing there. But this state is run from the city, and like 75% of it is big country. There's this vein that runs through the kind of central eastern part of the state that is I-5, and that's where all these population centers sit. And then there's the Cascade Mountains to the west, and then over the Cascade Mountains, you've got nothing but Colorado transplants and Bend, and wide the fuck open country. And you see, there's a lot of towns out there, and they're all 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. But until you've actually been in one of those places and seen the way that they live life and see the things that they need to get on with their day, you don't really understand what it is that your decisions affect on the other side of the mountains. And I use this all the time. I don't think I've ever talked about it on this podcast before. There's a little 5-minute documentary out there that I'll share that was made. It was only just a couple years after the reintroduction of the gray wolf in Oregon, and it was a OR7's pack, I believe, before it had traveled all the way down south. It was up in the Northeast. And they were finding dead cattle all over the place. And what this documentary follows is one of the state scientists that comes out with the ODF&W. And they look at the dead cow corpse and they document bite marks on the bone on the front quarters. They document bite marks on the bone on the hind quarters. They document all sorts of ripping and tearing at the flesh. And then they stand up and they look at the farmer and they go,
natural death.
We can't guarantee that this was killed by a wolf, so we're not going to reimburse you at all. And you look at that cow right there, it's $1,400, okay? But that cow is actually, it could feasibly be responsible for another 10 that look exactly like it. So extrapolate, we're talking about 140 grand down the line. And then, we get to 280 grand and it just keeps compiling. And
essentially, if you can't provide a picture of the wolf killing the cow, see, this is what drives me crazy about spin and media and politics. They make it sound like, oh, well, yes, if there is predation, then the wolves can be killed. And everybody just takes that as fact. Oh, okay, well, if this guy's cows get killed by wolves, a pack of wolves or a wolf, well, they'll take care of it. And they don't go beyond that. You go beyond that and you begin to realize that you damn near not only have to have photographs of the wolves killing the thing, you damn near have to have wolf DNA and fingerprints or paw prints, as the case may be, before they will do anything about it. And they wonder why it is, and they go, oh, well, these farmers, all they want to do is kill wolves. Well, no. All they want to do is live their lives, make their living, and not have to deal with this thing that was introduced by the government that comes in periodically and wipes out, their livelihood for the year.
10, 15 grand worth of inventory. I mean, think about it like that. Think about you sell cars. And then
somebody comes in and just steals half of them.
Yeah, or just takes a bat, doesn't even steal them, just takes a bat and fucks it up so bad that you can't do anything with it, and really it's going to cost you now to either remove it or leave it there as bait for the next guy with a bat. And neither one of those are good ideas, and I've always thought this to be one of the most hilarious parts about it. One of the preventative measures that the state of Oregon has for the motherfucking gray wolf, which is a wolf that'll stand, the goddamn things could be 4 feet tall at the head.
Yeah, they're not
small.
They're
not small. 150-pound dog, 180-pound dog.
By the way, they weren't even native to this area.
No, that's a timber wolf. And if you don't believe it, look it up, because I've had many arguments with many Eugenians that don't want to believe that I know what I'm talking about, but trust me, I do.
But they're cute, they're dogs, they're puppies.
Now, Bill, the very first measure that they will give you, that they will allow you to take with wolves is they tell you to string wire at 18 inches off the ground, and not electric wire, by the way. That's not allowed. And what you do is you hang a piece of red ribbon every 6 feet on this wire that's 18 inches off the ground, in the hopes that the goddamn horror movie werewolf won't just step over it calmly and kill all of your animals. I know I'm sounding preachy right now, but I don't really care. I'm kind of passionate about this because I've seen how much it fucks with people, and it speaks to the bigger picture in this state. Am I a MAGA hat wearing diehard Republican? No, I am not. But what I understand is that not all the problems in this state reside in Portland and on the I-5 corridor, and that's one of the...
What? What?
That's one of the things that has gotten to me since I moved here. And do I think that they should be forgotten just because they live in a sparsely populated part of the state? No. Everybody deserves their voice. Well, they should vote it. They can't. They've got 2,000 people down there. Nobody fucking listens to them. Nobody's been closer than 3 counties away. The
Democrats learned a long time ago, and not trying to be partisan here, because I'm politically an atheist.
That's how I like to look at it, too. You could paint me with a gray brush and be way more accurate than red or blue.
And the Democrats learned that if you win Portland, and when I say win, you get 51% of the vote of Portland, you got the state.
Yep.
You got it.
And it's been like that for a long time.
And so, you think that, and imagine what the frustration that if you're an urban dweller, imagine the frustration of somebody that they've been raised, and that's what they do their entire lives. They've been doing cattle. They're grass seed farmers. They're mint farmers. They're working in ag. They're out in the woods. God, I'm like the only male member of my family that I can think of that didn't work in the timber industry in one form or another, whether it be in the woods, working in a mill,
And how many people do you know now that work in a mill or in the timber industry? Not from just radio, but like your personal life.
Very few.
And that was a generational job. That was you went, your dad was a logger, you were a logger, maybe you were pulling green chain or whatever.
And it wasn't, other than my uncle on my mom's side, it wasn't a career. It's what you did, when you were 16, 17 years old. You did that. You maybe went into the military or you went to school. In the summers, you worked in the woods. This is what my brother did. He went up to Alaska and worked in the woods. You work in the woods. You come back in the winter. You go to school. You go back. You work in the woods, pulling, setting chokers or pulling green chain at a mill or whatever. And but there were some people that was their lifetime job. And I think of my uncle on my mom's side. That was he did that for, it's what killed him. And it's like there is this, you get people that are urban dwellers that not only don't get a rural frame of mind and way of life, they just don't give a shit. They believe, I don't like that, therefore it's not valid, and therefore we must stop it. Well, okay, so what about all those jobs that are lost? They can come up with a different career, or we'll come up with their other business. Okay, so it's all fine and good that you can sit there and go, like Nike or Google or Amazon puts in a center, or, Intel. I'm sorry. Intel and Nike are not going to develop satellite offices in Roseburg.
Right. Or anywhere else other than Beaverton, for that matter. That's as far out of Portland as they're getting.
You're not going to get Silicon Valley to move to Burns.
Burns, nice place.
I like Burns.
That's a nice place, right in the middle. It's just right smack in the middle of the state.
And then you got 395 that goes up to John Day, and that drive on 395 is awesome.
Yes, John Day is a beautiful part of the state, too. If you haven't been to Central Oregon, and I don't mean Bend, you're missing out.
Absolutely.
I mean, Bend is great. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of friends in Bend, but Bend is the new Denver. Like, if they're moving from California and they're not going to Portland or Eugene, they're going to Bend right now.
Man, at one point, I'd been through Bend, just the highway through it. But I hadn't really, really been to Bend, I don't know, since I was like 18, 19 years old. This was a couple of years ago on my motorcycle. And I decided, I'm going to go over to Bend and I'm going to go hang out over in Central and Eastern Oregon. I looked at Bend and it's like, what is this place? I don't remember this place. This is not Bend.
It's exploded.
Oh, and it's huge. And if you're somebody in Bend, I'm not knocking Bend. That downtown area is pretty cool. There were some good eats and good bars.
You will catch me in downtown Bend 1,000 times before you catch me in downtown Portland right now.
Oh yeah,
and Portland should be worried about that.
Hello, thumbs up, going out to Bend. But there is so much more. You grew up in Enterprise, right?
Yeah, way the fucking gone out there.
Well, you're over by Joseph.
Yeah, 6 miles away.
And Joseph is the funkiest town. I think it's one of the more interesting towns in Oregon, because you're over where you don't expect Joseph to be.
No, it's actually, and I don't mess around when I say this, that Highway 82 ends 6 miles past Joseph. You go through Enterprise, you go 6 miles to Joseph, you go 6 further miles up to the head of the lake.
Yep.
Head of Wallowa Lake, and you run into a mountain range, and the road just fucking stops. There's not even a turnaround. There's a parking lot. Yeah. It just stops.
And Joseph is, where did this bohemian town come from?
Yeah, because Joseph is an art center, so it's got a little bit of the yuppie feel to it because bronze was really big over there. Yeah, they did a lot of bronze casting. They do a lot of art and painting and stuff like that. And Joseph was always kind of the artistic, kind of artsy-fartsy place where Enterprise was considered the spot that was kind of, more farmy.
But what I would say about Joseph is it doesn't come across as pretentious.
Yeah, well, you just got to know a few people from there.
Oh, okay. That's where you get into the pretension.
No, well, here's the deal: when you live in that part of the state, the thing that stands out are transplants. If somebody comes in to Joseph and tries to change things and make it not Joseph or not make it not Wallowa County, it doesn't matter what walk of life or whether you're on the right side of the coin, the left side of the coin. Your drug of choice is weed or Copenhagen. Those people get squeezed out like a zit, and it's really nice to see. It's one of the reasons I love going back there is because the people that don't make it out of that county as far as, they go to high school and they leave, I don't even like to consider it making it out. They stayed because that's where they should be. Well, and that's kind of where it's at.
For me, it was and is, like I said, it's kind of bohemian, but it's a down-home, non-pretentious bohemian.
Yeah. It's really friendly. You're not going to find friendlier people.
I loved that place. I mean, I did find it weird that you have essentially deer walking around in downtown and through people's yards and everything else. I was like, and if you're riding a motorcycle,
that's dangerous.
Yeah, that's not something you want to see. So you're kind of like, at that point, your butt is just like at about a number 8 pucker, and he's like, oh my God, that's an actual buck walking around in this downtown area.
That's why there's a sign at the beginning of Joseph's that says this little town is heaven to us. Don't drive like hell through it. There's deer in the streets.
And that's
You'll
true.
hit a fucking deer or a cougar. You might hit a cougar.
I think it's a cool town.
It's awesome, man.
And what's amazing to me is that, I've mentioned that. It's like, oh man, have you ever been to Joseph? Where?
Named after the great Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce tribe. Mm-hmm. There is little Chief Joseph, which is his son, is buried right there outside of town just before you come over the road to the foot of the lake, which is Wallowa Lake, which was formed by a glacier that slid off of Mount Joseph and melted into a really big, really cold puddle. There's some places where they still haven't mapped the bottom yet of Wallowa Lake. I grew up on it. I used to drive the parasail boat out there. Best summer job you could ever ask for.
Oh man,
board shorts, no shirt, towing around bikinis in a fucking parasail, and people tipping you $50 for it. Like it's a little touristy trap area, but it's well enough kept secret that not a lot of people go there. It's way out of the way. It used to take 7.5 hours to get there. They changed the speed limit on Interstate 84 along the Columbia Gorge to 70. Now it takes like 6 hours to get there because I've never seen a cop. What they did is they're like, we're going to put it up to 70, and you guys are only going to go out there as state cops when there's a pileup. Just stay away from it. It's the Autobahn.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I-84, you rarely, once you get past, Wood Village and Cascade Locks.
Yeah.
You're really not, you don't expect to see much out there. I took a different route to get there. I went through the Blue Mountain Highway and...
Oh, Jesus. You punished yourself on that bike.
Going through, you got Paulina City, and I can't remember I always forget the name of this. It is the geographic center of the state, and there's a little trading post, a gas station, and a post office.
It's Wagon Tire.
No? It's not the name of it.
Okay, because Wagon Tire's like that, and it's for sale still. It's a little town with it's got a post office.
Anyway, I totally went the back way. But, it amazes me how many people live on the western side of the Cascades that have never been on the eastern side and done any exploration over there. You know, you're talking about the northeastern corner of the state. Then you got the southeastern corner of the state with Hart Mountain and
sand dunes.
The sand dunes and the Dunder and Blutzen River.
Yep.
And Silver Lake and
big country. You would not imagine how big it is out there. It's a vast expanse of nothing, and then you'll come to a town.
Right. And like Paisley or Plush. I like Paisley because you got the Shiawakan River that runs through there, and it runs through this little kind of valley in between these foothills, and you're out in the middle of you look at it and go, oh, this is desert. And then this little river that runs through these foothills, it's like this long ribbony oasis that goes all the way down from there to Lakeview on that Forest Service road. It's like, 50 miles. And it's like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yep. And how many people did you pass on the way out there? 2, 3? You know?
If that.
Yeah.
And it was the same way. I mean, you get into Enterprise and Joseph, you have the Enterprisians and the Josephians. But other than that, I'm this guy out there on a motorcycle, and it's like that highway is deserted.
Yep.
Pretty much getting there. And, same way Anthony Lakes and
LeGrand and out that area. Yeah.
I totally, for folks that want to get the hell away from this side of the Cascades, if you've never been up to particularly Wallowa County.
Oh, you got to say it right. I'm not going to let you say it like that in here. Wallowa.
What did I say?
Wallowa.
Okay. Wallowa.
There you go.
Wallowa.
Get that twang in there,
All
Bill.
right. Wallowa, and you take the Blue Mountain Highway, and there's this neat triangle, the Blue Mountain Highway and the Elkhorn Highway. And it creates this triangle that's about 120 miles. It is the coolest drive. And on the Blue Mountain Highway, there's a point there that is the highest point that you can drive by a vehicle in Oregon.
That's awesome. Very cool. And it's you guys. That's what people don't understand. It's the mountains over there. You're literally in the mountains. There's a
reason why, and by the way, there's a reason why they call them the Blue Mountains, and the Oregon Alps.
Yep. And there's, basically when you drive up to Wallowa Lake, you're going to drive around one side of the lake, and that side that you're looking up to on your left-hand side as you're moving south towards the head of the lake is the moraine, is what they call that. That's all the dirt that was pushed up from the glacier, and that's what you see there. It's not really a mountain. Then you've got Mount Howard and Mount Joseph, and right in the middle you have a very, very sharp looking mountain that actually they call Matterhorn. Mm-hmm. And it's because if you go up there and you look up at the bottom of it, it fucking looks like Matterhorn in Germany or wherever that's at.
Disneyland.
Isn't it modeled after a real place?
What?
Matterhorn. Because I'm pretty sure
at
they
Disneyland?
Yeah, at Disneyland.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one in Switzerland. It was
that's
that's patterned after Disneyland. Disneyland was first, then the mountain in Switzerland came second. I thought everybody knew that. I thought everyone knew that.
Oh,
it was
man.
like the Swiss. I mean, the Swiss are so resourceful. They go, oh yeah, they have the amusement park. We make that bigger here.
It's the socialism over there. It's what really does it. It literally makes them move mountains.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way with Mount Everest. I mean, people always just thought, oh, that's naturally formed. No, hell no. The Himalayans built that.
We went completely off the rails, and it's exactly why I wanted to have Bill on the podcast. These are the types of conversations that I used to get to have, not only when we worked together, but when I was doing ad work for numerous different cannabis companies. I would always make sure and take an extra half an hour off just so I could do the voice work, come in and hang out in your studio.
And you haven't done that for a long time, you prick.
Yeah, well, look, they wouldn't even let me in there because of COVID over the last year, and I don't have a job anymore, so this is my job.
You don't have a job anymore?
Not right now, no.
Again, COVID?
Yeah.
Thank you, COVID. COVID has done so much for us. Well, COVID has changed society forever.
Look, it did.
We thought we were pussies before.
That's true. Now
we thought we were pussies, that society was pussies before. We are now officially just oozing in pussification. We are crystallized. In pussification.
That's going to be a shirt right there. Crystallized in pussification. The Man Room Podcast. Get your t-shirts.
I really
here.
want to see the graphics for that too, by the way. I really do.
Oh, man.
Thank you for inviting me in to do this.
Dude, thank you so much.
I'm imagining everybody's listening is like, God, this is random shit.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
But I love it. And that's why the podcast was made, because this is we would come up here, if you were just coming over to hang out, we'd have the same conversation. And that's what I want out of this podcast is just hanging out in the Man Room, having a drink, having a conversation, and I love it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the beer.
Dude, no problem. That's the least I can do.
Anytime you bait me with beer, it's like, yeah, I'll come talk.
What'd you think about that Axis Deer summer sausage?
Oh, that stuff is good.
Isn't it good? That's the last I have. I've got more of it coming from Maui in October.
You may have noticed that it's not on this tray anymore.
Good, man.
I mean, when there's still cheese left on it, and there's no meat. You know the meat was good, because generally the first thing I go for is the cheese that smells like dirty underwear.
Okay.
You get me dirty underwear cheese, like, oh, yes. God, it stinks. It's delicious. That's what I'm into.
That's the Man Room Podcast. I ask everybody at the end, how was the experience?
It was great. The beer was good. I really liked the sweaty German guy beer. What was the sweat dripping off into the vats?
Yeah, the Hefeweiss beer.
That stuff is. The other was really good too, but the sweaty Brewmeister stuff is awesome.
Well, we're going to keep
the world's oldest sweaty brewery.
we're always going to keep the beer flowing here in the Man Room. Once again, you can check us out everywhere you get podcasts. There's no reason to go through that again. If you have a response to anything we talked about, I would love to hear from you. The Man Room Podcast at gmail.com. As far as Bill, you can listen to him every morning, 1120 KPNW from 6 to 9 a.m.
And 93.7 FM if you're in the Eugene area.
There you go, 93.7 FM with his co-host Rob Holloway. They put on a great show, and they will keep you in touch with what's going on locally without making you feel like you have to wave one political flag or another. I've always thought that you guys did a great job at that. So
thank you.
Thank you for that coverage. Thank you for the time.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, thanks for having me in. Sometime have a group discussion in here. I'd like to come in for a group discussion where we all just sit around and bitch and piss.
Oh, I love it. That's going to happen on the Man Room Podcast, and you're going to get to look forward to it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. And transmission.